So Frazer Clarke wins a 10-round unanimous decision over tough veteran Mariusz Wach. Now, a lot of people are terribly unimpressed by Frazer Clarke's performance here. They're saying that this shows he would never have beaten Fabio Wardley in a million years. And people were saying that before this fight, of course. And even Frazer Clarke himself in the post-fight interview acknowledged Ben Shalom and said, you know what? I probably should have listened to them and shouldn't have been so frustrated that they didn't want me to fight Fabio Wardley. I did need the 10 rounds. Humility can be good a lot of the time if you're a student. But at the same time, I didn't like the signals that were coming from Frazer Clarke in that interview, saying, oh, I'm not saying I would have got beat, but doing the 10 rounds is a bit different, this, that, and the other. Yeah, it's good to be realistic, but I like to see defiance in a fighter to some extent because it shows their confidence. You know, I would have preferred him to say, I could beat Fabio Wardley with or without this fight. I get why Ben wanted me to have the 10 rounds, but I'd beat him anyway. So let's make the fight. Now, maybe he was playing possum in that post-fight interview because he did then go on to say, perhaps all the cruiserweights will want to fight me. Excuse me, heavyweights, not cruiserweight. Certainly not a cruiserweight. Probably when he was a teenager, he might have been a cruiserweight, about 13 years old. No, maybe all the domestic heavyweights will want to fight me now after this performance, right? That's basically the gist of what he said in the post-fight interview. So is that him playing possum by saying, oh, well, you know, perhaps it was the right thing. I needed the 10 rounds. You know, I didn't feel that great in there. Or is he just being honest? And is there maybe some doubt about how ready he is in his own mind? Let me know what you guys think about it. But the performance itself, apparently it's hot. I'm not in the UK, but apparently it's hot in the UK right now. And the York Hall is like a little cauldron. So, you know, that's going to affect you, particularly if you're a big man like Frazer Clarke, who's, 260 pounds or something like that. And he is starting to shape up a bit aesthetically because when he turned pro, he was really very flabby. But now he is like trimming down quite a bit. Will his fitness... Because, you know, people can look good aesthetically or look better aesthetically. That doesn't necessarily mean they're getting fitter as far as cardiovascular, or stronger. It all depends on how the weight has been lost and the type of training they're doing. But yeah, with Frazer Clarke, definitely looks fitter than he looked earlier on in his career. Apparently very hot in the arena. That for a pair of big men is obviously going to be difficult. But then Mariusz Wach is even bigger than Frazer Clarke. And he's from Poland. I mean, it's not the hottest place in the world, Poland, is it? So how used to the heat can Mariusz Wach really be? And I'm not saying that he won the fight. He lost every round, really. But he didn't seem particularly uncomfortable in there. And he had his moments in the fight. So that's something you definitely have to wonder about in terms of the heat affecting Frazer Clarke. But look, it's like anything. Once you've done it, it becomes easier next time. And if it was really hot in York Hall, if he fights next time, let's say in September, October, it's not going to be as hot. And maybe he'll feel the benefits, of being able to be in a longer fight when it's not so hot. He'll feel energized. You see what I'm saying? Because they've removed that resistance, for lack of a better term, of the heat. It's like running in sand. If you do running in sand all the time and then you run on grass, running on grass, you feel like you're lighter than air. If you've been running in sand for long enough, that kind of thing. But yeah, I thought that the performance against Mariusz Wach was adequate. The commentators really didn't talk enough about Mariusz Wach's incredible chin. Yes, he's been stopped 4 times. He's only been down once in his whole career. And that was, I think was it last year or earlier this year against Arslanbek Makhmudov at the age of 42. It's taken him to reach the age of 42 before someone's eventually dropped him. And this guy's been in there with Klitschko, Martin Bakole, Jarrell Miller, Alexander Povetkin, bunch of other people. And after all those fights and such a long, tough career, he only got dropped once, and it was at the age of 42. So this guy has a tremendous chin. And if you go and watch that fight he had against Makhmudov, he never really got knocked to the canvas. He was being overwhelmed by Makhmudov's volume, and he just kind of sunk to the canvas to escape the barrage that he was under. So it's not like his legs went or anything like that. No, not from what I saw, because I saw the finish. So that chin that he has is still full of concrete, Mariusz Wach, and the commentators really didn't talk about that. The other times that Mariusz Wach has been stopped, he was stopped by Povetkin on a facial injury in the 12th round. Right? So that had nothing to do with being concussed or anything. He had a facial injury, and they stopped it on that. And the other 2 times he was stopped by Martin Bakole and by Jarrell Miller, he was overwhelmed with volume. Again, similar to Makhmudov, even though Makhmudov was the first to drop him, same as the Miller fight and the Bacoli fight, they overwhelmed him. That's how you have to fight in order to beat Mariusz Wach. You have to just bombard him with punches. You're not going to hit him with a 1-2 or a 1-2-3 and drop him. That's not going to happen. But that's all Frazer Clarke had. He had a 1-2 or a 1-2-3. And he was landing the best shots that he could on Mariusz Wach's chin, and nothing was happening. You hit it with 260 pounds of a right hand, and it just shrugs at you. Again, they don't want you talking about the Klitschko fight back in the days. Oh, yeah, that's when he was a young man. Listen, his chin today is still one of the best in the division. Maybe not quite as good as it was a few years ago, but still incredibly good. And when he fought Klitschko, I mean, the guy was getting hit with flush right hands. He doesn't have a great defense, Mariusz Wach. His defense is probably better now than it was back then. But he was getting hit by flush right hand after flush right hand from Klitschko and left hooks. Clean on the chin for 12 rounds. Klitschko was hitting him as hard as he could because he couldn't miss him. And Mariusz Wach is incredibly slow, right? So it's not like he was dangerous with counters or anything like that. I think he only caught Vladimir maybe once, 8th or 9th round. But apart from that, it was target practice for Vladimir Klitschko. But this guy's chin was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Mariusz Wach has got the best chin I've seen in the heavyweight division since Oliver McCall. Easily. Man's got an incredible chin. Incredible. A guy like that, even at 42, 43, whatever he is now, you got to put your punches together to get him out of there. It's not going to happen with a 1-2 and then you wobble him. No. You got to throw 3s and 4s and you got to be on him. If you're giving him space and you're boxing, yeah, he's going to do the old man thing where he messes you around and spoils a little bit and waits to the end of the round and then opens up on you. You know, he knows how to pull you around, you know, the way that these veterans do when they're in with a prospect. They know how to do it. They know how to negotiate the distance. So, yeah, if you're going to fight someone like Mariusz Wach, you have to fight a young man's fight. And that's what Frazer Clarke's trainer was telling him in the corner. He was saying, you're a young man. This guy's finished. You got to stick it on him. You know, you got to up the tempo and work him over. You're not going to get him out there just boxing at long range. Yeah, that won't work. He's too tough for that. His chin's too good for that. It's too wily. So anyway, he went the distance. I don't think Frazer Clarke going the distance with Mariusz Wach is such a terrible thing. I think it would have done him good. And styles do make fights. Frazer Clarke clearly isn't the kind of guy who's going to overwhelm you with volume. His volume wasn't bad, but it just wasn't high enough to stop Mariusz Wach. So yeah, I think it's good experience for him. It's unlikely, it would seem, that he's going to get the Fabio Wardley fight next anyway, because I'm assuming he's gone down in the pecking order with the British Boxing Board of Control, and they'll probably order David Adelaide. He'll get a shot against Fabio Wardley. So, you know, we'll see what happens there. But in the post-fight interview, Ben Shalom made out as though he's sent another offer to Matchroom for the Fabio Wardley fight. I'm not sure they'll be interested in it at this point, since Frazer Clarke isn't the mandatory anymore. You know, they're looking to go in a different direction. Horrifyingly, there's rumors of Fabio Wardley fighting Dave Allen. I mean, please no. Dave Allen's been retired, quote unquote, for several years now, hasn't he? Actually, he fought in, where was it now? Was it Gibraltar or somewhere like that? Maybe earlier on this year or last year, but you know that wouldn't have been against any type of opposition. So he hasn't been fighting real fights the way Fabio Wardley has. So bringing Dave Allen back to stick him straight in there with him, nah. That's just some cynical stuff from Matchroom. Obviously, Dave Allen probably likes a few quid. You know, thinks he can maybe stick the distance with a Fabio Wardley. I don't know. But I don't want to see that fight. I would much rather see Fabio Wardley against David Adelaide for the British title. And failing that, you know, you've got various other people out there, Sol Dakers, and obviously Frazer Clarke too. So those are the fights I would rather see. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I know many will be tearing Frazer Clarke to pieces for that performance against Mariusz Wach. But personally, I didn't think it was that bad. It wasn't a scintillating, amazing performance or anything like that. But it weren't that bad for a fighter who's, whatever he is, 4-5-0. Frazer Clarke. Now, somebody did say, I saw someone say that Frazer Clarke can't be compared to a normal 6-0 or whatever he is prospect because he's been in the WSB, he was in the Olympics, he's got a lot of experience. So he needs to be compared to, let's say, a Joe Joyce when he was 6-0. And Joe Joyce at 6-0 was being moved quite quick. Frazer Clarke isn't being moved that quick. Well, I mean, yeah, you can compare him to a Joe Joyce, but people develop at different rates. And obviously, Frazer Clarke, wherever his ceiling is, he's not as far along as Joe Joyce was when Joyce was at this stage, 6-0, whatever, in his pro career. No, Frazer Clarke's not there yet. Maybe he'll never get to the level Joe Joyce is at. He obviously lost to Joyce in the amateurs. We will see, but you have to take fighters on a case-by-case basis as far as developing them. You look at Mike Tyson. He was ready for the world heavyweight title when he was 20. Most fighters are not ready for the world heavyweight title at 20. Okay, but he was ready. But of course, he burned out early too. By the time he was 30, was he pretty much done? He fought Holyfield first time when he was 30. So, other fighters like Lennox Lewis, for example, he was still amateur when he was 20. And when he did turn pro, he didn't reach his peak until he was, his athletic peak was probably in his early 20s, but his technical peak must have been in his early 30s, mid 30s. Yeah, that's when Lewis really got it all together mentally, technically, and he still had enough athleticism to be elite. So some fighters age like wine. They come along more slowly, particularly at heavyweight. Whereas other fighters, they have a much more brightly burning flame, but it doesn't burn as long. I'm sure someone in boxing has used that metaphor, that analogy before. So yeah, that's my take on Frazer Clarke's performance against Mariusz Wach. Good 10 rounds, tough, wily vet. It'll stand him in good stead. Let me know what you guys thought about it.